Welcome to Red Devils United, guys. Thanks for joining me here. And as always, we're looking to build a great community of United fans and football fans in general to have a chat and really just enjoy talking about the upcoming season. Today, I just wanted to put up a quick video to summarise last season and my thoughts on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer over here and the job that he's done. So I know there's people who are anti Ole and people who are pro Ole. Now, I'm always going to be pro whatever United manager is in the job until he does something that will ultimately lose my loyalty. And they have to not just lose a game or not just lose games. They have to actually physically be doing things that hurt the club and hurt the fan base. So from that, I'm sure you'll understand that yes, I am pro Ole, and there are reasons for that. Okay, look at the club when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer arrived. Okay, there was negativity from the moment the previous summer pre-season started under Mourinho. It was just everything was negative. He was creating a bad and toxic atmosphere within the training base. There were bad stories coming out. The team was not performing. Confidence was low. The fans, they weren't enjoying the football. Obviously, results weren't good, but you still want to be able to enjoy the football if possible. If you're going to lose a game or draw a game, if you've done it playing well or playing the right way, then okay. But when you're losing and it's also really tough to watch, then that's hard for fans of any team. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came in to a rotten dressing room, a culture that lost itself. United lost its identity, and he had an awful lot of work to do, other than just keeping United going. When you see what he done in the summer before his first full season, he got rid of a lot of dead wood. Let's talk about the players. I know Jones is still there. He signed a new contract, but all that does is up the value so that you can sell him at a proper value. He's not leaving on a free, or he's not only got 1 year left, so he's very cheap. I mean, he'd be cheap enough, he's rubbish, but at least now he will have a proper value attached to him. But he barely played under Ole, okay? Barely in the matchday squads. He was injured a lot, but he also wasn't being picked, right? Smalling, out on loan. Rocco, didn't play. Lukaku, gone. Sanchez, gone. Fellaini, gone. Okay? When you, in a summer, get rid of 8 or 9 players from your team, okay? Yes, it leaves the team very thin. The squad is very thin. And unfortunately for Ole, he had to get rid of those players, okay? I know Lukaku's done well in Serie A, but Serie A is a different league, okay? And Lukaku was not good at United, and that's the only thing you can look at him for. It doesn't matter what he does since then. It's the right decision to move him on. It was the right decision to move Sanchez on and Fellaini and all the other players that he's getting rid of and will continue to get rid of. It's the right decision to move them on because they are not good for United. They are not good for the culture, and they are not good for the kind of team Ole is putting together, which is a very fast, young, energetic team. So we got rid of those, and the squad was quite light. Now, results were not going our way for the first half of the season, and a lot of fans are jumping on Ole's back, but they weren't looking at it in context of what was actually going on. You remove 9 players from your team, that's very difficult then to start off well. You then combine that with bringing in only 3 players. Daniel James, who did start off well, but he's an 8 million player, and he's a squad player. He's not going to be, or shouldn't be at the moment, a starter for Man United. Obviously Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Maguire are exceptional boys, and I'll get into that, but they're the 3 players. So we lost Martial to injury. We lost Pogba to injury. Greenwood hadn't even graduated from the academy yet, and Bruno wasn't in the team. So when you lose Martial to injury and you lose Pogba to injury, all of a sudden your midfield is very thin. It's massive lack of creativity, and the striker, Rashford, who we were relying on far too much, playing far too much, he had very little service. He had very little movement around him because we just didn't have the players. So Ole came in, he had to get rid of a lot of dead wood, and he did. And it just left our squad very thin. But then come January, in the second half of the season, you see he brings in Bruno and everything changes. Pogba comes back fit and his squad is playing great football. We went on an unbeaten run of about 18 games. Fantastic charge towards the end of the season to close a 13-point gap on Leicester. He had Martial back from injury. He had Greenwood graduated. He had Rashford there. So when the players came in and the squad was somewhat boosted, that's when we could see what Ole wanted to give to United and what way he wanted the team to play. And United on form were the best team in the league from January 22nd till the end of the season. There was no team that won more games or got more points than Man United. So the difference that was made, not just by the Bruno signing, I mean, people will say, yes, Bruno, and he was phenomenal, but by Pogba coming back from his injury, by Rashford coming back from his injury, by Martial and Greenwood and Rashford all playing together in the same team for a lengthy spell, all of this combined is what really elevated United to being one of the on-form teams in the entire league in the second half, as opposed to the first half of the season, which is when they dropped 26 points behind Liverpool and City. I mean, that's when the gap was created. People were like, oh, well, you have to close this summer. You have to close a 26, 30-point gap. And I was like, no, we don't. We already closed that gap from January to June. That gap was closed. There was no gap from January to June. We were actually the best team. But the damage had already been done at the start of the season. So the gap between United and the top two, it's not as big as people think. We added Van der Beek, and that's going to close the gap somewhat. We still need to add a lot more players, and that gap will then continue to close. But, getting back to Ole, he got rid of a lot of dead wood. He brought in Bruno, brilliant. Let's actually look at his signings. He brought in Daniel James had a good start, but he's a squad player. But Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Maguire, fantastic defenders. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is one of the best defensive right fullbacks in the country. He's had a brilliant season, and United's defence have had a brilliant season. First of all, Williams is only a teenager. Maguire was in his first season, Williams was in his first season, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka was in his first season. So that's 3 of the 4 defenders in their very first season with a new team and a new coach. Okay, so obviously it takes time to get to grips with everything going on. In their first season, we had the 3rd best defence in the league. Okay, the best defence in the league was Liverpool, and people talk about they have Van Dijk, he's the best defender in the world. Trent, one of the best fullbacks in the world. Robertson, one of the best fullbacks in the world. They talk about Gomez being one of the best centre halves in England. Right, so Liverpool have the best defence in the world football. It's unbelievable. They only conceded 3 goals less than us. Okay, our defence has massively improved, and those 3 goals could be put down to a couple of individual errors by De Gea, who is still one of the top 3 keepers in the world. So the defence is massively improved. Do we need another centre half? Well, I'd like to see Bali stay fit. And yes, another centre half for competition in places, excellent. But the defence is actually a lot better than people give it credit for. Like I said, we conceded 1 goal more than Man City, who are the 2nd best defence. We conceded 3 goals more only in the league than Liverpool. In all competitions, we actually had more clean sheets than everybody in all of Europe, except PSG. And they're not in a competitive league. PSG are the only team who had more clean sheets than Man United in all competitions. In the league, we had the 3rd best defence. Now those defenders are a year older. They have a year more experience playing with each other. Shaw's coming back in. So this defence is easily one of the best defences in the league. They've also got better players now playing in front of them. Bruno, Pogba, Matic has really lifted his game. Van der Beek coming in, the top 3. So United will have less pressure on the defence, who is now a year older, a year more experienced in this United team. And because of that, they should, theoretically, be better this season than they were last. So we've got a defence that was bolstered by Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Maguire, thanks to Ole's signings, that have done extremely well in their first season, and in my opinion will be one of the top 2 defences this year. He then brought in N'Galo, who has done a great job filling in as a striker and another option for United. He's had some great performances, he scored some great goals. Ultimately he's only a player on loan, but it was a great piece of business by Ole, and it was laughed at. He was mocked for bringing in this player when we had Rashford injured, when we had an 18-year-old in Greenwood being relied on too much. And this is the exact kind of signing we needed. Somebody different from Martial. somebody who could hold the ball up and not just run in the channels. It was a different player, a different option, and Ole was mocked for it, and I thought that was a great signing, and still is, because we'll have him till January. He brought in Bruno, and everybody knows the impact he has had. He's one of the best signings in the Premier League. He's won Player of the Year in a lot of United polls, and he's won trophies. He's only played half the season. So Bruno is an exceptional boy. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's signings, James for squad depth, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Maguire for making United's defence one of the top 3 in the league, which it is. You can't argue with it. And Bruno for making United's midfield one of the best midfields in the Premier League. I mean, there's not many midfields that you look at with Pogba, Bruno, Matic, or Van der Beek and say that they're not one of the top 3 midfields in the entire Premier League. So his signings are amazing. Let's look at how he, coaches is ultimately measured on whether or not he improves players. Well, let's take a look at that. Martial, he's had his best season ever last year under Ole. Rashford had his best season ever under Ole, and both of them were injured for a quarter of the season, so they didn't even play the whole season, and they had their best seasons ever under Ole. Matic, the improvement in Matic, where he was like slow, constantly getting caught in possession, lethargic, and all of a sudden under Ole, he came in from January to the end of the season. Matic was a different player. He was phenomenal. He played his role excellent, and in my opinion had probably one of his best seasons for United under Ole. Bruno was obviously fantastic. He brought in Greenwood and developed him, and he scored more goals than I think any player of his age for United ever. So massive development under Ole. Williams came in from the academy and had a great season. He tailed off a bit towards the end, but that's because he's young and he's a kid, and it's expected. Formal, when you're that young, formal have its ups and downs. But again, really, really great progression under Ole. Lindelof probably had his best season as well under Ole, because like I said, our defence was one of the top 3 in the league. Only 3 goals conceded more than the best defence in the league. So again, that entire defence improved under Ole. I don't think there's a single player in this squad that you can look at and say was worse. Fred, I think, had one of his best seasons under Ole, and his form dipped a little. He found himself on the bench a lot, but that's because United were trying to accommodate Bruno and Pogba coming in, who are 2 of the best midfielders in the world. So, but Fred had one of his best seasons, and it was under Ole. So he's improving nearly all the players across the board. And for me, he's doing a fantastic job. He's doing a really great job with player development, of graduating youngsters from the academy. People talk about the brilliant youthful team that Frank Lampard is playing, or some of the youth players that are coming through for Liverpool, none of which got a game in the league. Barely any minutes in the league. Man United have the youngest team in the Premiership last year. They had the most academy graduates playing minutes in the league than any team in the league, and they finished third doing that. I mean, yes, they buy players. Everybody buys players. Everybody pays players' wages. But United are probably the only team in the league that graduates this many players and gives them minutes, not just in a League Cup or an FA Cup, but gives them minutes in the league. Chong had league minutes. Gardner had league minutes. Obviously, McTominay, Greenwood and Williams had league minutes. Lingard had league minutes. Pereira had league minutes. Fosu Mensah came in quite a bit and got a good few minutes under his belt. No, not a lot, but he got a good few minutes under his belt towards the end. That's 8 academy players getting minutes in the league. Name anything or show me a team in the Premiership that's playing 8 players that they developed in their own youth academy, and that's not including Pogba. Yes, we paid massive money buying him back from Juve, but he was developed in our academy. But 8 academy players, 9 if you include Pogba, playing league minutes. It's the youngest team in the league, the most academy players graduating in the league, and that's what Ole is working with, and got them into third. And hopefully this season takes another step in the right direction by maybe not winning the league. I think it's a bit much to ask, but competing, being up there. I think he has the ability to do that. I am pro Ole because he has brought in great players. He's got rid of massive amounts of dead wood. He is changing the culture within the dressing room. He is giving United an identity. He was one of the top performers against the top 6 teams all of last season. You know, we were the only team to take points off Liverpool until they were beaten by Watford. We beat Chelsea 3 out of 4 times. You know, we beat Man City twice, maybe 3 times last season. I think it was twice last season we beat Man City. Beat Chelsea 3 times. Beat Spurs. Beat Arsenal. We drew with Liverpool. Beat Leicester, who finished 5th. We had great results against the top 6 sides in the league. And then towards the end of the league, we were getting better results against the lower teams who put low blocks on. So again, Ole, the positives: got rid of the dead wood, is changing the culture, giving the team an identity. His signings are doing well. He's developing and making players better. You know, I don't know what more people would want from their manager, but in his first season, he finished in, I think it was 6th. Klopp had finished 8th in his first season. In Ole's second season, he finished 3rd. Klopp scraped 4th on the last day of the season. So now he's in his 3rd season. Okay? Let's see what he can do in relation to that. I'm pro Ole. If you are, even if you're not, comment below. Let me know what you think of his first season in charge, his full first season in charge, and let me think what would be a successful season for Ole this year. I'd love to get your thoughts, have a chat. Please like, subscribe, share the channel, and let's build up a good community to talk about all things United. And I'll talk to you soon.